The sun was beginning to set over the barren landscape of Kepler 47b, casting long shadows across the dusty plains, where a small group of university students had gathered for an archaeological expedition unlike any other. The planet, far from Earth and barely touched by human footsteps, held secrets buried deep beneath its surface, secrets that many believed were best left undisturbed. Yet curiosity and youthful bravado had brought them here, eager to uncover what lay beneath layers of rock and forgotten time. Among the group was Eli, the unofficial joker of the team, whose quick smile and daring spirit often turned tense moments into light-hearted adventures. The others sometimes found his antics distracting, but they couldn't deny that his energy kept the group's morale high during long, exhausting days under the alien sun. The dig site had been a hive of activity for weeks, with scientists carefully brushing away centuries of dust to reveal fragments of an ancient alien civilization. Strange markings, metallic shards, and broken relics had already raised questions, but nothing prepared them for what they would find next. It was late afternoon when Eli spotted the figure half buried in the sand, a statue unlike anything they had seen before. Standing about 7 feet tall, carved from a shimmering black stone that seemed to drink in the light, the statue's form was both familiar and alien. Its features were sharp, yet strangely human, with eyes that appeared closed, but hinted at something deep and knowing beneath the surface. The team gathered around, voices hushed with excitement and a touch of fear. Local legends passed down by the few settlers and whispered among the expedition crew told stories of this statue being a guardian of forgotten knowledge, a relic left behind by a species that vanished mysteriously 1,000 years ago. Some said it was cursed, that those who disturbed it would bring disaster upon themselves and their people. Eli, however, wasn't one to believe in curses or superstition. To him, the statue was a perfect target for a joke away to lighten the heavy mood and shake off the growing unease that some of the others felt. With a mischievous grin, Eli stepped forward and, without a word, pressed his lips against the cold stone of the statue's cheek in a playful kiss. His friends gasped, half in shock and half in disbelief, but Eli laughed, stepping back as if daring the statue to do something in response. The moment was frozen, the desert wind carrying whispers of ancient time. Then, almost impossibly, the statue's eyes flickered open, glowing softly with a pale blue light that cut through the twilight. The group froze, their breaths caught in their throats as they stared at what could only be described as a miracle or a nightmare. The stone figure's gaze was intense, filled with a depth of wisdom and sorrow that made Eli's heart pound in his chest. Without moving its lips, a voice echoed inside their minds, calm yet heavy with warning. "You have doomed your species." Words hung in the air like a storm ready to break. Eli's laughter died instantly, replaced by a cold shiver of dread. The others looked at him, eyes wide with disbelief and fear, unsure if they had heard correctly or if their minds were playing tricks in the fading light. The statue's voice continued, its tone grave and unyielding, revealing glimpses of a story no one wanted to hear, a tale of civilizations destroyed by their own hands, technology turned against them, and the slow poison of arrogance and neglect. It spoke of warnings ignored and opportunities missed, of a future where the same mistakes that ended the alien race could doom humanity as well. Eli's playful joke had unleashed a truth heavier than any of them had expected, one that challenged everything they thought they knew about their place in the universe. As the statue's eyes slowly closed again, returning to their lifeless, stone form, the group remained silent, each person lost in their own thoughts. Fear mingled with curiosity, and a new question burned brighter than any treasure they might find in the desert sands. Was this warning real? And if so, could they change the path that lay ahead? Eli felt the weight of responsibility settle over him, heavier than the stone in his hand or the dusty heat around them. What had started as a joke had become a moment that might alter the course of humanity forever. The night crept in quickly, and as stars blinked awake in the alien sky, the students packed up their tools with a quiet urgency, knowing that the discovery was only the beginning of something far larger and far more dangerous than any of them had imagined. After the statue's eyes closed, silence filled the air like a thick fog, pressing down on Eli and his friends. The weight of the moment lingered, each of them frozen in place, unsure what to say or believe. The others looked at Eli as if he held the answers, but Eli felt anything but certain. The playful joke he had made moments ago now seemed like a foolish mistake, one that had awakened something far beyond their understanding. As they gathered their equipment and prepared to leave, Eli's mind raced, trying to make sense of the statue's words, "You have doomed your species." What did that mean? Was it a warning, a threat, or simply nonsense from a mind playing tricks after days of hard work under the alien sun? The group slowly returned to their camp, a quiet tension replacing the earlier excitement. Yet, Eli could not shake the feeling that the statue's message was real and urgent. That night, unable to sleep, he returned to the dig site alone, drawn by a strange need to understand more. The moon hung low in the sky, casting pale light over the alien landscape. As Eli approached the statue, it stirred again, its eyes glowing softly, as if waiting for him. This time, the voice came clearer and more direct, filling Eli's mind with images and words that were impossible to ignore. The statue began to reveal fragments of its long-lost civilization's story, a tale of brilliance and downfall intertwined. It spoke of a race that had once reached great heights, mastering technology that could shape worlds, cure diseases, and even bend time itself. But their pride and hunger for power grew faster than their wisdom. They ignored the warnings of their own scientists, who cautioned against the reckless use of advanced machines and weapons. The civilization's leaders pushed forward anyway, seeking dominance and control, believing themselves invincible. As the statue told the story, Eli saw flashes of destruction, cities crumbling, skies darkening, oceans boiling in the faces of those who had perished, left only as echoes in history. The voice warned that this tragic fate was not unique, and worse still, it said humanity was treading the same path, blind to the dangers that lay ahead. Back at camp, Eli shared the experience with the rest of the students, but reactions were mixed. Some listened with wide eyes, their excitement now replaced by fear. Others dismissed the story as a hallucination, a trick played by their tired minds in the harsh conditions of the planet. Arguments broke out, with some calling it a hoax or a product of collective stress. The tension grew, dividing the group between those who believed the statue's prophecy and those who clung to skepticism. Eli found himself caught in the middle, trying to hold the group together while wrestling with his own doubts. How could they be sure the statue wasn't just an ancient machine malfunctioning or a programmed illusion designed to protect something? Yet the clarity of the message and the emotion behind it made it impossible to ignore. Eli's role as the messenger weighed heavily on him. He felt responsible not only for delivering the warning, but for convincing others to take it seriously before it was too late. As the days passed, the statue continued to communicate with Eli, sharing more details about the alien civilization's downfall. It revealed that the destruction wasn't sudden, but slow and steady, caused by arrogance, misuse of power, and failure to learn from mistakes. The technology that once brought hope became a weapon that tore the world apart. The statue's voice was filled with regret, urging humanity to listen and change course before repeating history. But the warning came with a challenge. The alien knowledge would only be shared fully if humans showed they were willing to change and not just seek power for its own sake. Eli began documenting everything, hoping to create a record that could convince others beyond their small group. However, fear and doubt still shadowed the camp, and not everyone was ready to face such a grim future. Some preferred to ignore the warning, believing their world was too strong and advanced to fall like others had. Others worried the statue's message might trigger panic or worse, conflict. As governments and factions fought over the alien technology, Eli's nights grew restless as he wrestled with the statue's words. He understood that this warning was not just about technology or power. It was about the very choices humanity made every day. It was about responsibility, humility, and the willingness to listen to voices beyond their own. The statue's story forced Eli to look at his own world differently. Seeing dangers he had never noticed before, endless wars over resources, environmental damage, and divisions that threatened to tear societies apart. Could humanity learn from the past of a civilization lost to time? Or was it too late to change? The statue's presence had awakened something not only in Eli, but in all who had heard its message. Fear mixed with hope, skepticism battled with belief in the future suddenly felt fragile. As the alien night deepened, Eli knew their journey was only beginning. The warning was clear, but what would humanity do with it? Would they rise above their flaws and avoid the same fate, or would history repeat itself in the cold silence of the stars? The answer was still unknown, hanging in the balance like the glowing eyes of the ancient statue, watching and waiting. Eli could no longer ignore the heavy weight of the statue's warning. The mysterious message haunted his thoughts day and night, filling him with an urgent need to uncover the truth buried beneath the alien sands. He gathered his closest friends. From the expedition, those who had shown a willingness to listen beyond fear and skepticism. Together they returned to the dig site with renewed purpose. They began searching, not just for relics, but for answers, proof that the statue's warning was more than just an ancient riddle.
Ow.
Days turned into nights filled with hurried research and tireless digging. Deep beneath the surface, Eli's team uncovered a hidden chamber carved into the bedrock, sealed away for centuries. Inside, illuminated by their portable lights, they discovered walls covered in strange symbols and a vast collection of holographic records stored in what appeared to be alien data crystals. The technology was unlike anything humans had seen before, ancient yet highly advanced, a testament to a civilization far beyond their current understanding. As they activated the data, images and stories from the past began to play out before their eyes. Great cities flourishing and then falling. Great machines designed to heal, but eventually used to destroy, and voices warning of the dangers that led to their downfall. The records revealed a chilling pattern of civilization undone by its own hands through overuse of resources. Endless conflicts over dwindling supplies, and a refusal to respect the fragile balance of their environment. They had built great machines that could alter climates and bend the very fabric of nature. But their greed and pride blinded them to the consequences. As Eli and his team absorbed the data, a clearer picture emerged of a society in slow collapse, desperate to hold on to power even as their world crumbled around them. The parallels to Earth were impossible to ignore. Back home, news reports detailed growing tensions between nations, severe shortages of food and water in many regions, and increasingly erratic weather patterns disrupting lives across the globe. The signs matched the alien records too closely to be coincidence. Eli felt a cold shiver run down his spine. The statue's warning was no longer just a message, it was a prophecy unfolding before their eyes. The more they learned, the more urgent the statue's cryptic communications became, filling Eli's mind with fragmented phrases and warnings that hinted at a way to change the course of history. If only humans could listen. Despite their growing fear, Eli's team pressed on, determined to understand every detail and find a way to prevent the disaster looming over their future. They studied the alien archives for clue scientific data, political records, and personal stories from the civilization's last days. One record stood out. A message from an alien scientist who had pleaded for peace and restraint, but was ignored by leaders consumed by ambition. His words echoed in Eli's mind, a desperate call for wisdom and compassion that had gone unanswered. It was a stark reminder that knowledge alone was not enough. Change required action and unity. The statue's voice returned frequently, sometimes speaking through visions that left Eli breathless, sometimes as a whisper in the quiet moments of the night. It told him that the fate of their species was intertwined with the choices made today, that the future could be altered but only if humanity chose a different path from those who came before. Back at camp, the tension among the students grew, as they debated how to share this knowledge with the world. Some urged caution, fearing disbelief or panic. Others argued that the truth must be told, no matter the cost. Eli found himself at the center of the storm, carrying the burden of the warning and the hope for change. He began sending encrypted messages back to Earth, sharing the evidence and pleading for leaders to listen. Yet, even as they worked, signs of the same dangers loomed closer. Reports of political unrest, environmental disasters, and social unrest became harder to ignore. The world was at a tipping point, and the statue's warning echoed louder with every passing day. As Eli looked at the starry sky above Kepler 47b, he realized that the fate of humanity was no longer a distant threat, but an urgent challenge staring them all in the face. Their discoveries were a call to action, a chance to rewrite history before it was too late. But the question remained, would humanity answer the call? Or would they fall into the same traps that had doomed the ancient civilization beneath their feet? The evidence Eli and his friends had uncovered could no longer be ignored. Back on Earth, the warnings carried by the alien statue stirred something deep within humanity, a mixture of fear, hope, and resistance. As the encrypted messages arrived, governments around the world scrambled to respond. But their reactions were far from unified. Many leaders, bound by the chains of politics and power, saw the statue's warning as a threat to their control. To admit that humanity was on a dangerous path meant facing uncomfortable truths, that their industries, their weapons, their greed had led the world to the edge of destruction. Fearful of losing influence, some governments chose denial and suppression. Dismissing the alien evidence as a hoax or propaganda, they tightened control over information, silencing scientists and activists who spoke out about the dangers ahead. But even in the darkest corners of power, whispers of change could not be fully silenced. Outside the halls of government, a new movement was growing, inspired by the courage of Eli and his friends and the chilling message of the ancient statue. Ordinary people across continents began to unite, calling for reforms to protect the planet and its future. Environmental groups, scientists, and citizens rallied for change, spreading hope and demanding accountability. Their voices grew louder, fueled by the undeniable proof that humanity's path was perilous and that time was running out. Eli found himself at the heart of this divided world, struggling to bridge the growing gap between fear and hope, denial and acceptance. The alien statue, now fully awakened by the attention and belief of humans, revealed itself more clearly than ever before. Standing tall and glowing with an otherworldly light, it offered a choice unlike any before. The knowledge and technology of the lost civilization, once sealed away, could now be shared, but only if humanity proved it was ready to change. The statue's challenge was clear. To accept the gifts meant accepting responsibility. The advanced technology could heal damaged ecosystems, solve energy crises, and unlock new frontiers of science. But only if used wisely and with respect. Eli realized that this was more than a test of intelligence or skill. It was a test of character. Would humanity learn humility, compassion, and cooperation? Or would they fall back into the same patterns of selfishness and destruction that had doomed the ancient aliens? The weight of this choice pressed heavily on Eli's shoulders as he traveled between nations, speaking at forums, meeting leaders, and inspiring grassroots campaigns. His message was urgent, but hopeful change was possible, but it required unity and courage. Despite Eli's efforts, the divisions grew sharper. Some leaders clung tightly to old power structures, fearing the loss of control more than the risk of extinction. Propaganda and misinformation spread, aimed at discrediting Eli and the statue's message. The media became a battleground, with voices shouting for both denial and action. Protests erupted worldwide, some peaceful, others violent, reflecting the deep fractures in society. Yet, in the midst of chaos, a new sense of purpose began to take root among millions who believed in the chance for a better future. These grassroots movements pushed for transparency, sustainability, and peace, using the alien warning as a rallying cry. Communities rebuilt with a focus on harmony with nature, embracing the statue's teachings even before the technology was fully revealed. Eli watched as hope and despair battled fiercely, knowing the fate of humanity hung in the balance. Behind the scenes, the alien statue continued to communicate in cryptic ways, sometimes through visions that left Eli breathless. sometimes through symbols that hinted at the technology and wisdom ready to be unlocked. But the gift remained locked behind a door only the collective will of humanity could open. Eli's struggle became not only about spreading knowledge, but about healing deep divisions. He met with skeptics who feared change or clung to old beliefs, trying to find common ground without giving up the urgent message. He spoke to scientists who saw the technology as a chance for salvation, and to activists who warned that, without immediate change, it might be too late. The statue's eyes seemed to watch over him, silent but powerful reminders of the stakes. At times, Eli felt the crushing weight of doubt. Could a species so divided truly come together in time? Could hope overcome fear? And yet in quiet moments he saw glimpses of what was possible, small acts of kindness, communities choosing, cooperation over conflict, and young people rising with passion to protect their future. The choice was clear but difficult. Continue down the path of destruction, or take the first step toward redemption. As the world watched, the tension grew. Eli's messages reached millions, sparking debates, inspiring action, and challenging the very way humans saw themselves. The statue's light shone brighter, as if urging humanity onward. The question was no longer if they would face the consequences, but what kind of future they would choose. Would they embrace the alien gift and change their ways, or would they fall into the shadows of denial and division? The story of the ancient civilization, once lost to time, was now a mirror held up to humanity, a chance to learn, grow, and survive. At the quiet moments before dawn, Eli stood by the statue, feeling the pulse of hope and fear intertwine. Future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the choice was theirs to make. The tension across the world had reached a breaking point. Everywhere people were talking about the alien statue and the warning it had given. Governments that once ignored or denied the message now faced growing pressure from their citizens demanding action. The evidence Eli and his friends had uncovered was undeniable, and the time for hesitation was over. The question now was whether humanity had the courage to accept help from a mysterious alien, source and change the course of history, or to continue down the path of destruction that could lead to extinction. Eli stood before the statue one last time, the glowing figure towering silently in the desert night. Its eyes, bright and filled with ancient wisdom, seemed to ask him, "Are you ready to carry this message forward?" The answer was clear in Eli's mind. He would do whatever it took to unite humanity and save the future. With a team of trusted friends and scientists, Eli began preparing a global broadcast using the advanced alien technology the statue had finally revealed. The plan was risky, using powerful transmitters to reach every corner of Earth, with the statue's warning and the knowledge of how to prevent the coming disaster. There were many obstacles. Governments that tried to block the transmission, skeptics who spread doubt and fears that such a message might cause chaos. But Eli believed that truth was stronger than fear, and hope could inspire even the darkest hearts. The team worked day and night, programming the broadcast to combine the alien message with human voices calling for unity, peace, and responsibility. Eli knew that this was a moment unlike any other, where the future of all humankind hung on the willingness of millions to listen and act. When the broadcast finally went live, a wave of silence fell over the world. For the first time, billions of people heard the statue's voice clearly, describing the fate of the lost alien civilization and the warning that humans faced the same danger. The message was not just a threat, but a plea, a chance to change, to embrace a new way of living that respected life and the planet. As the broadcast spread across cities, villages, and remote places, reactions were mixed but powerful. Many were moved by the truth, inspired to join movements pushing for change and sustainability. Others remained fearful or doubtful, but even they could not deny the growing signs of a world in crisis. Across continents, people gathered in public squares holding vigils and discussions, pledging to make a difference. The statue's light, visible even from Earth through advanced sensors, seemed to shine as a symbol of hope and warning alike. In the days that followed, Eli traveled widely, speaking with leaders and communities, urging cooperation instead of division. He saw firsthand the difficulties of changing deeply rooted habits and systems, but also the sparks of transformation taking hold. Renewable energy projects expanded rapidly, nations agreed to reduce conflicts over resources, and environmental restoration efforts gained momentum. The alien technology helped solve many problems. Clean water became available to more people. Crops grew in places once barren, and diseases that had long plagued humanity started to decline. Yet Eli knew the journey was only beginning. A true test was whether humans could keep their promise to change and avoid the mistakes that doomed the ancient civilization. One evening, as Eli stood beside the statue under a sky full of stars, he felt a deep sense of peace. The statue's eyes glowed softly, as if acknowledging the progress made. Though challenges remained, the world had taken its first steps toward redemption. A future where unity, respect, and responsibility guided every choice. Eli thought of the long road ahead and the countless lives that depended on their success. He understood that redemption was not a single moment, but a continuous effort, a daily choice to protect what mattered most. With a hopeful heart, Eli looked toward the horizon, ready to face whatever came next. Knowing that humanity had finally begun to write a new story, one of survival, growth, and harmony with the universe,